Hi, it's Dan at eujuicers.com, and in this video I want to show you this kind of cool new juicer that we just got in. This is the Santos N65. This is a commercial juicer, and it's a cold pressed commercial juicer, unlike most which are centrifugal. If you go into a juice bar or a restaurant or hotel, probably 90% of the juicers out there are centrifugal, which if you've watched our videos or John over at Discount Juicer, you know that that's not so good for the juice, especially if you're trying to store it for long periods of time. That high RPM, it's going to heat it up a bit, it's going to destroy some of the nutrients, and it will cause oxidation. That's why it's best if you find a juice bar using a slow juicer, just like you know at home, the juice is going to taste a little better, it will last longer. And this model is really unique. There's not many cold, slow juicers out there for commercial use. There's the Sana Horeca Kuving Chef for around 1,500 euros. There's the big Angels, which start around 10,000 and go up 40,000 and beyond for those big commercial guys. And then there's this one. There's no MSRP yet, it's brand new, but it's estimated it's going to run around 4,000 euros. So depending on the size of the juice bar or restaurant, you'll see how long it takes to get a return on your investment. But that's what I want to do, is test it out. How does this thing work out? It's got some cool features that I wanted to show you. First of all, you'll notice here, there's two knobs, and these control two separate motors. I saw a press release for this. That's why I contacted the company. Santos is a French company. It was real nice of them to send it to us for a few days. And the two motors, when I saw that, it didn't explain what they're for. It turns out there's a top motor that controls the feeding tube. There's a little spiral cylinder I'll show you in just a moment, and it actually rotates as you're feeding produce in. You can control the speed of that rotation. And then the main motor is a 650 watt variable speed motor, which is kind of cool. It will go from 80 RPM, which is kind of standard for a slow vertical juicer, all the way down to 5, which I suppose would be best for big, heavy things like beets, big, huge carrots. I've got some big carrots here I'll try out in just a minute. And I'm curious to see how that goes. Another nice thing about this is it's stainless steel, which you don't really see too often, especially in a slow juicer, besides the Angels. So I want to pop this guy open, show you some of these parts. It's a massive pusher, just a plastic pusher there. And you can see here, stainless steel, totally solid. And by the way, the housing on this guy, is cast anodized aluminum. This thing weighs about 30 kilos, or 62 pounds for you guys in the States. It's pretty heavy to move around. This juicing bowl here is solid stainless steel. This is that upper auger I was talking about. This thing rotates, and the produce comes in and kind of gets cut as it goes in. I'll show some shots of it in action. See if I can get the auger out of here. Check that out. Solid stainless steel. You can see the opening here. The pulp doesn't accumulate in here like in a typical vertical juicer, because the pulp actually comes out here through the bottom, down through this hole, and this is a pulp container, which is pretty cool. That means you don't need one of those gearing systems to push the pulp out horizontally. It just drops through. And let's see if I can pull the juicing screen out of here. This is the unit where the pulp is falling through. A couple of rubberized gaskets. And then here's the juicing screen. One thing I want to show you that I noticed, these are rotating blades like you see in vertical juicers. It's held together by magnets, but this demo model, it's been around to other companies. Looks like someone did something to it, because there's a magnet on this side, comes together, but on this side it's broken off. So I don't know if that is something that would need to be redesigned, or maybe someone just didn't know what they were doing and shoved it in. Finally, check this guy out. Solid stainless steel. I was a little concerned that there's no horizontal bands that you'd normally see reinforcing it. However, it's really solid, and it fits really flush in there, inside this stainless steel juicing bowl. So I don't think it could flex out. I don't think breakage would be a problem. So what I'll do now, I'm going to reassemble this guy. I've got 2 kilos of carrots. I'm going to try it at the low speed, and I'm going to try it at the high speed. I'm really curious to see if it makes a difference in yield, amount of pulp, quality of juice. I'll also do some apples and then finish up with some spinach. So the first thing I want to test is carrots. I've brought 2 kilos of carrots. These are from the same bag. I've measured them out. And the reason I'm doing 2 separately is because I want to run the machine at the lowest speed and also at the highest speed and see if there's some differences. Obviously, it should be faster at the higher speed, but I'm also curious about yield. Will I get a higher amount of juice at a slower speed? And also pulp. Will there be less pulp at a slower speed, more at a higher speed? I'm not sure. We'll see. And I want to see how it handles the bigger carrots. I've got some fairly big carrots, ones that I would normally cut up if I put in my home juicer, or normally in a vertical, you feed a carrot in, you let it chop pieces off as you go. I'm just going to throw them in completely, see what happens. So first round will be the low speed. So I ran that for 2 minutes. Maybe could have done a bit faster, but it went pretty well. It did stop once on one big carrot. What it does, it has an automatic sensing feature. It stopped, it reversed itself for about 2 seconds, then it went forward again. So no problem. So I'm curious to see what kind of yield I've got and also how much pulp there is. So I'm looking, not much pulp. There's a little bit, about the same as you'd find on a good vertical home unit. More importantly, what's the yield? Say right at 400. So 400 milliliters, not bad. Best vertical juicers like a Sauna 808, you can sometimes get up to about, 450 maybe on a good day. It also depends on the quality of your carrots. This is being filmed in winter. The carrots aren't so great right now, but I do have them soaking in water to keep them from drying out. What I'm going to do now is turn it up to full speed. I'm really interested in the results and the timing here. Let's see what happens. All right, so that took about 1 minute 15 seconds. One thing I did notice right away was I had to hold this up because at that high speed it was really shooting the juice out, almost like a centrifugal would do. All right. Yeah, I don't know if you can see. I'd say it's a bit pulpier. Not much, though. Let's see. Yeah. How about the yield? Yeah, about 370, I would say. So the slower does give an advantage. One other thing I want to show you is the pulp container. The first time I saw this in a video from the company here, from Santos, I was curious, hey, where's the pulp outlet? And they never showed it. Well, it's right here. And this is one thing that's pretty cool. You know, the pulp comes directly out under the unit. Not only saves space, but it saves complexity. You don't have any gears pushing the pulp out. So you can see there's pulp from 2 kilos of carrots, which I'm going to go clean up right now and then get ready for some apples. Okay, so next up I've got some apples, Granny Smith, which is my favorite apple for juicing. And I've got 5 apples here. I'm not going to measure the yield. I really just want to see, first of all, how it will handle whole apples. Some of these wide-mouth juicers that claim to handle whole apples, you have to get really small apples. Even with this, about 80 millimeter, these will fit, but a big giant apple you'll still have to cut up. And I generally prefer to cut apples up anyway, just in case there's something going on inside there. I'm going to play around with the speeds a bit, see if that makes any difference in terms of the foam. Probably will with foam, maybe oxidation, and also with pulp. But I'm just going to run it through, check some different speeds here, see how it goes. All right, that's kind of cool. I've kind of got a handle on what's going on. Basically, the top motor, that's controlling how fast the produce is getting into the juicing chamber. Second motor is controlling how fast it's juicing. So with these apples, I could, for example, if I had the bottom one going fast, it would be empty. I could speed up the top. Or if it starts backing up here, I can slow down the top and let a few apples sit in here and slowly feed their way while it's busy juicing what's in there. So it's kind of a cool feature. I want to see pulp-wise how it looks. Notice there's a little bit of foam. That's when I sped it up to high, to 80 RPM, but still way less than you'd get in a centrifugal. And that color's real nice. Again, there's nothing like cold-pressed juice, especially from a commercial machine. Yeah, it's just foam. But then again, normally you don't see much pulp coming out of apples. Notice the color though. Pretty clear, pretty bright green. One little tip also, when you're making apple juice, if you're not going to drink it right away, if you put in half a squeeze of lemon or a few drops of lemon juice, that'll keep it the fresh color. It'll prevent the oxidation. So next up, spinach. Want to see how it does on leafy greens. I've got some Italian wide leaf spinach here. I want to try that. Greens could be tricky, especially something like these guys. I got the bigger ones because they're a lot more fibrous. I want to see if it jams up or if it leaves a lot of residue. The apple's left basically nothing inside. That scraper blade works wonders. So I'm going to try this. Typically when I juice spinach, I juice it with a hard root vegetable, a beet, or more commonly a carrot. That's my go-to juice, is spinach carrot. So we'll see how this goes. I may have to use the auger. That is one nice thing about this. I haven't had to use the auger. It's been absolutely self-feeding. That rotating top part is actually pulling the pieces in and cutting them. So it's pretty cool. So we'll see how it goes. This is one time I'm really happy for a wide mouth, because if you've ever tried to juice spinach in a standard little narrow mouth, it is a huge pain. All right, it's still dripping out of there. It probably will for a while. I want to see how the quality of that was. That was only a half a kilo. You know, you don't get much juice out of greens. But then again, typically greens aren't your main juice. They're an ingredient to add to your other juices, because greens are very powerful. But yeah, a little bit of foam. That's because I was playing with the RPM again. I started it out slow and then I sped it up. Sped up the juicing process. All right, I'm going to clean this up and come back with my final thoughts. So that's the Santos N65 cold slow press juicer, and I say I like it for a commercial machine. Again, we're talking a whole different audience of customers unless you're really wealthy and want this in your house, because it is the only stainless steel vertical machine. Some of the things I like about it, obviously the stainless steel. I didn't talk about cleaning so much. It was super simple to clean, rinse out all the parts. The juicing screen's kind of big, a little bigger than a typical vertical. You've got to get in there with a brush. Took me about a minute or two to clean that. Everything else just rinsed off. I also like this pulp container a lot. The way it's integrated into the machine, it holds a lot, 4 liters. And I was a little skeptical about the variable speed motor, but I like it. And I'm glad I figured out the reason that there's an upper one, so you can control how fast things go into the chamber and then how fast you want to juice them. I could see for a juice bar this would be great. It's the only cold pressed vertical machine out there. You could get an Angel if you want to spend a lot more. If you don't want to spend so much, you could get a Sauna Horeca. But this is really heavy duty, super solid, definitely worth considering. And that'll wrap it up. Hope you liked this video. If you have any comments, please leave them below. I'm Dan from EU Juicer, and I'll see you next time.